I do not hate the game key card. Hello everyone, my name is Jeremy. I am the Ogre Man, and this is a place where you would come to hear me talk about everything that I love and don't like about video games. And one of the hot topics right now is the fact that, Nintendo is putting out these game key cards. Now, I think the idea of them is fine, but the way that Nintendo is implementing them or have been implementing them has been done very, very poorly. And I'm specifically saying that Nintendo and the way they are handling the situation is a lot worse than how Sony and Microsoft have been handling the same type of thing with their discs, because they're for the past like 10-15 years or so, they have been doing this to some degree in a very similar way. And believe me when I say I know this, because I have at least 2 or 3 PS5 games that definitely do not have the game on the disc themselves. So going around and just saying completely that it's all Nintendo's fault and everything is completely and utterly false, because this has existed for quite some time. I mean, even Nintendo was already kind of doing it to some degree with the Switch One as well. But you might be asking, why do I think this is fine? And I think it's fine because you do have those big giant games, that don't necessarily fit or harder to produce or whatever, and all that type of stuff that they just don't fit, and it's harder to put out. So it's a lot easier to just give people that disc or cartridge with a license on it or whatever, maybe a little bit of something on there to help save up a little bit of space, and just download the rest of it. Now, in theory, I think it's okay. Obviously not what we all want. We all would like things, especially those of us that are collecting physically still. We want as much of the game, if not the whole game, on that disc or cartridge. But the way Nintendo kind of went about this when it came to the Switch 2 is that they only gave 2 options for third-party developers. And I have reason to believe that that's the only reason why there were 2 options, is because when they were telling all these developers that, hey, you're here to help support us, right? If you want your game available at launch, these are the 2 options we have for you. Because it's not like they went to these developers right away, like literally a month before the Nintendo Switch 2 dropped, and said, hey, we're gonna shut, if you want these games on, this is what we have. No, because it takes time for a lot of these developers to make sure that the games work properly, are optimized for the new system, and can utilize any other features that the Switch 2 might have. And by doing that, that means they would have had to at least have been in contact with them and gave them these options and everything before, for like probably at least a year ago. And at that time, maybe they had the idea that, hey, this is the 64 gigabyte cartridge is what we have and right now. And if you want it at launch, these are the only 2 options we have. I think that they may actually be or have been working on since optimizing and figuring out smaller cartridge sizes, which you would think that they would have thought about that at first, but Nintendo was Nintendo. I'm not saying this is anything for sure, but I do have reason to believe that based off of this type of situation, or being like, okay, you want these games at launch, 64 gig or this other game key card option. And given that they were only 2 options, almost everybody went for the game key card, except for like a few specific developers. What is it, like Monolith and CD Projekt Red. And I think there's a couple others that are the exception to this, but they, other than those developers that were willing to invest in the more expensive cartridge instead of game key cards, they took a risk, and it was a pretty big risk for them. But I mean, many of them are paying off right now, I believe so. But other than that, there just wasn't any other option, and I I really do have reason to believe that Nintendo is at least trying to figure out how to make these make smaller cartridges work and more affordable. But we won't know until we see more third-party developers actually working on and putting their games on all on the cartridge versus the game key card route. And we're probably not going to see any of those games at least for another almost year or so, is my guess, if this is the case. But on top of that, like I was trying to say before, I think game key cards are fine. They are not preferred. I do not prefer them. But if there is a game like Street Fighter 6 here, a game I never played before, and I like the idea of being able to play it on my Switch 2, I will go out and prefer to buy this than just buying it digitally. A lot of people, I don't understand their concept and thinking when it comes to choosing digital over the game key card, because at least when you get the game key card version for the same price, you are getting the box to show that you actually kind of own the game, you know. And then of course you would also get the cartridge inside that, yes, it basically just triggers an install download, but you still need that cartridge in your system in order to play the game. And people are like, oh, that's so inconvenient. I have to pull the game out and put it in every single time I want to play. It's like, you already do that for regular full Switch 2 games. Why are you complaining about it now when basically it's exactly the same thing? Is it really that much of an inconvenience? Because if it was that much of an inconvenience, then, you know, you wouldn't be buying physical games to begin with. The biggest inconvenience, though, is the fact that the Switch 2 still has a very limited storage space, and there are only so many options when it comes to the SD Express cards. Ideally, the best one that's out there and most affordable one right now is the Walmart brand 512 gig, which is just a little less than the regular SanDisk micro SD Express card that has been sold and distributed for the 256 gigabyte, which is just around like, what's it, a little over $70, while the 512 one that Walmart sells is actually about like $67. But still, these games do take up a lot of space. I get it. It's especially aggravating for those that do not have good internet speeds. Like me, I'm still running on like DSL, which really sucks because it can take anywhere from like a week or so just to get a game downloaded for me sometimes. But other people with actual decent internet, they'll complain, oh, it takes forever, and then it takes them like an hour. It's like, at least it takes you an hour. It takes me a week. But the only thing that I can really say that is actually kind of good and nice about these is the fact that you can hand them off to other people in your family once you're done playing the game. You can give it to them. They can download it onto their Switch 2, and they can play the game for their time being. Or you can also just go and sell the game to someone else, and then they can experience the game as well. In other words, at least the game can still be shared amongst anyone and everyone afterwards. I mean, that's the biggest positive, and the fact that technically you do own the game because the cartridge has a license to play the game. So if that's one of your biggest issues about it too, being the fact that you think that you have to worry about servers being down in like 20 some years and not being able to download the game, as long as you have the game downloaded already, you should theoretically be able to pop in that cartridge and still be able to play that game if you really want to, if you're still playing games on your Switch 2. But more than likely in 20 years, you won't be playing the Switch 2 anymore. You'll have the next thing, whether it's like the Switch 4 or Switch 5, whatever we would be up to at that point. And I know I keep talking about all the negatives and everything that people have been saying about these things and why they are bad, but I still think that they're fine. The way Nintendo is doing it, has been doing it, was poorly executed. It should, like, Game Key Card should be a last resort option for third-party developers. That is really all I have to say about this topic. I know it is a very hot topic. A lot of people do not like these things, and I have stated I don't appreciate the fact that this is happening, but I do see a hopeful future where these are a lot more limited than they currently are now, where they're pretty overabundant. But we'll see how that goes. Fingers crossed. I'll see you guys in the next video.